My name is Muhammad Daniel Ashraf bin Tajuddin from AM2285A. For the introduction, urbanization is the movement of people from rural to urban areas, allowing cities and towns to expand. It can also be described as a gradual increase in the population of towns and cities. It is heavily inspired by the idea that cities and towns have outperformed rural areas in terms of economic, political, and social outcomes. As a result, urbanization is increasingly frequent in both developing and developed countries, as more and more people move closer to towns and cities in order to get privilege in terms of social and economic services and benefits. Better education, healthcare, sanitation, housing, business possibilities, and transportation are among the social and economic benefits. Crime is an act that is done in violation of law that prohibits it, or that is done in violation of law that orders it. Depending on the crime, it may be penalized by death, imprisonment, or the imposition of fines or limitation. Urbanization has resulted in a slew of social issues, one of which is crime, which has spread to all urban areas in both developed and developing countries. Unprecedented level of global urbanization have coincided with an increase in urban violence in many parts of country, as unemployment has risen and coupled with rising poverty among the urban poor. In areas with large population densities, rapid changes in social context, and poor living conditions, impulsive crime is also common. Many immigrants in urban areas, for example, are adjusting to a new way of life in which relationships are built on fleeting and superficial and impersonal contact. This results in anonymity among city dwellers, as well as a terrible socio-economic situation, a high cost of living, and social disorganization, leading to some people stealing, robbing, becoming drunkards, drug pushers, and prostitutes in order to make ends meet.
Property crime is a common crime that occurs in urban areas. Property crime is a category of crime that involves private property, housebreaking, theft of motor vehicle, and many more. Property crime is also a crime to obtain money, property, or some other benefit that may involve the threat of violence in a case of robbery or extortion. The Royal Nation Police recorded more than 50% of crimes that occurred involving the theft of property. Bukit Aman Crime Prevention and Community Safety Department Director Datuk Sani Abdullah Sani said 22534 out of 38877 as of April 2015 that caused burglary, motorcycle and car incident, as well as the crime index also increased 4.6% with 58% being property case. The Department of Statistics Malaysia revealed that the crime index including violent and property crime. Property crime make up 85% of index crime in Malaysia. The two peaks of reported property crime cases are consistent with the country's economic downturn, namely the ASEAN and global financial crisis. Recently, the police have opened a total of 13 investigation papers related to property crime involving flood in the Selangor contingent for the period of 17 December to 23 December. Traffic crime means conviction for any case of traffic offence punishable by imprisonment. Traffic crime is also something that can threaten road safety and other road users. Examples include criminal driving during license suspension, reckless driving, driving under the influence of alcohol, rampage, and many more. Reckless driving is driving in a situation that is risky to other road users as well as causing serious injury to road users or other property. On January 14, 2017, 4 teenagers were arraigned in Butterworth Magistrate Court today on charge of reckless and dangerous driving on the Butterworth Outer Ring Road. All of them were charged under Section 42 of the Road Transport Act and Section 279 of the Penal Code. On 26 August 2020, the House of Representatives passed the Road Transport Amendment Bill 2020, where Section 41 and Section 42 are reckless driving or dangerous driving to death increased to a minimum imprisonment of between 5 to 10 years, a fine of 20,000 to 50,000, and a disqualified license for up for 5 years for first conviction. Driving under the influence of alcohol refers to a crime involving a person who drives under the influence of alcohol on drug, whether recreational drugs or prescription drug that cause the person to be unable to drive a vehicle safely. Transport Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Wee Kasiong said more than 800 road accidents involving driving in the wrong direction were reported in 2021.
Next is violent crime. Violent crimes are those in which intention harm is inflicted on another person during the commission of the crime, and it may involve the threat of their intention harm. Harm can be inflicted through the use of weapons, poisons, bodily contact, and other means. Property crimes are prevalent in Malaysia, including daylight and night battery, vehicle theft, and snatch theft. The number of crime cases increasing about 87% from 2008 to 2009, which involved property crime. In 2009, a significant increase in crime rate reaching a tipping point when it is reported a total of 588 murder cases and 3,177 rape cases as Malaysia's crime rate has become worsened. For example, Selangor having the highest number, followed by the Kuala Lumpur, Johor, Kelantan, Terengganu and Perlis had the lowest number of violent crime cases. According to the Department Crime of Statistics Malaysia 2019, the total crime cases involved around 6,489 cases, which is the highest violent crime case is 59% of robbery cases, but it also involve murder and rape crime cases. However, there are several state recorded crime rate below the national level in 2019, which are Sarawak, Perlis, Pahang, Kelantan, Terengganu and Sabah. In 2020, crime index ratio for all states declined except for Sarawak 4.2%, Pulau Pinang 3.7% and Terengganu 1.3%. Drug abuse or substance abuse refer to the use of certain chemical for the purpose of creating pleasurable effect on the brain. There are over 190 million drug users around the world, and the problem has been increasing at alarming rates, especially among the young adult under the age of 30. Most youth are involved in drug abuse because of their families are low income and they become the victim of the circumstances as they grow up in a small and uncomfortable house in a poor neighborhood. However, drug abuse is a complex issue that has long been in a public health concern in Malaysia. According to 2008 report, the number of registered drug users are expected to reach 500,000 by 2050. From January to September 2012, the number of new and repeated drug cases in Malaysia was reported to have decreased by 4,053 cases and 2,882 cases respectively. According to the Crime Statistics Malaysia, the number of drug addicts arrested in 2019 decreased in a few states such as Kelantan, Pahang, Negeri Sembilan, Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur and Perlis as compared to 2018. During the same period, the highest number of drug addicts arrested was recorded in Kedah, followed by Kelantan and Pulau Pinang. In Malaysia, most of the drug users are among professional groups, college and university students as coping mechanism for stress due to peer and academic pressures. According to the Crime Statistic 2020, the highest drug addict is among SPM students, followed by the PMR student, no schooling diploma students, STPM student, and degree or master student. However, according to the Malaysian Psychiatric Association, treatment program cost by the government about 3,000 per month for each addict, amounting to a whopping 300 million per year. So in conclusion, the government had to endure a significant amount for state outlay to assist the drug addict in becoming healthier and drug-free.
My name is Nur Anisofia binti Azhar.
For the first implication of crime rates in urban is affect the financial performance. From an economic standpoint, crime in metropolitan areas may have a wide range of implications, notably in terms of economic consequence. When a crime occurs, there should be a victim who has lost money or property, or perhaps their life. This is a squandering of a nation's resource. At the same time, crime contributes to property damage, increased property insurance claims, increased health and life insurance claims, higher workers' compensation premiums, increased private legal costs, readjusting lifestyle, and evolving costs to the victim when they have to move residence. Crime not only reduces economic output by causing teams to take time off work, but it also has a negative impact on communities by reducing tourism and retail sectors. Even the ostensibly victimless crimes like prostitution, drug addiction, and gambling have significant societal ramifications. Drug misuse reduces worker productivity, consumes public funding for drug treatment programs and medical attention, and leads to criminal behavior to cover drug-related expenses. The second point is increasing the number of victims killed, injured, and traumatized. Those who become victims and suffer mentally and physiologically, endure extreme stress and despair, have difficulty building relationships, and have poor self-esteem and undoubtedly have a lower quality of life. Crime causes unease in society, which is detrimental to the social development of the people who live in those places. Crime will also produce a slew of societal issues and have a greater impact on the next generation if they are involved in crime and do not attend school. Without adequate education, people would undoubtedly continue to live in a circle of crime, causing a slew of problems in society, whether they are victims, direct witnesses, or hear about the crime. Children and adolescents who are exposed to violence are at risk for poor long-term behavioral and mental health outcomes. For example, may develop behavioral issues, sadness, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Children who have been exposed to violence may exhibit heightened indicators of hostility as early as upper elementary school. Children who have been exposed to several sorts of violence over a lengthy period of time are more likely to develop anxiety, depression, and behavioral difficulties than children who had just mild exposure to violence. The third implication of crime rates in urban is an increase in the crime rate. According to the Overseas Security Advisory Council's OSAC Annual Crime and Safety Report 2018, released by the United States Bureau of Diplomatic Security, Kuala Lumpur is a higher threat place for crime. Crime is a major worry in the country, and it frequently captures the attention of the media. The Government Transformation Program (GTP) adopted in 2010, named Reducing Crime, as one of the national key result areas, NKRA, supervised by the Ministry of Home Affairs in a significant effort to combat crime. KL dan Selangor, for example, had the highest average index crime rates per 100,000 of the population between 2010 and 2017. The states of KL and Selangor accounted for 42.4% of all index offences. Index crime rates in KL and Selangor are dimly high when compared to Singapore, which has index crime rate of 431.3 per 100,000 people in 2016. Defenseless robbery and car theft are the most often reported crimes per 100,000 people in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor. Contrary to common assumption, murder and snatch still have the lowest rates when compared to the other violent and property crimes. In terms of percentage, Kuala Lumpur and Selangor accounted for 48.5% of total national violent crimes and 41% of total national property crimes. The last implication is health concern. Individuals' experience with crime and violence in their communities are a major public health concern. People can be subjected to violence in a variety of ways. They may have been physically victimized since violence or property crimes in their own town, or heard about crime and violence from other neighbors. Violence can result in a premature death or non-fatal injuries. People who survive violent crime incur bodily pain and suffering, as well as emotional turmoil and worse quality of life. Exposure to crime and violence on a regular basis may be associated with an increase in unfavorable health effects. People who are afraid about crime in their neighborhoods, for example, may participate in less physical exercise. As a result, their self-report physical and mental health may be worse. According to one study, those who consider their area to be less secure from crime may be higher BMIs and greater levels of obesity due to lower physical activity. Victimization. Personally, seeing acts of violence or hearing about occurrences from other community members are always to be exposed to violence in a community. Property offences that cause harm to build the environment are also included. Crime rates differ depending on the features of the community. Crime and property crimes are more likely to harm low-income communities than high-income neighborhoods.
The first suggestion in order to reduce crime rates in urban area is involving a criminal justice system and local law enforcement. Social preventive techniques include criminal justice measures as well. Criminal justice must be applied in a systematic way. The link between the population and the rule of law, especially criminal law and justice, is usually local law enforcement. The police play an important role in preventing crime as well as arresting, investigating, and prosecuting criminals. But the final lesson learned by the criminal is the punishment imposed by the court. Patrolling by the police should be the primary task of the police in order to minimize the crime rate. Patrolling does not require the use of a car, motorcycle, bicycle, or even walking. According to the Democratic Action Party, it has been proven that this assistance is important, with FRU forces once performing this role in Skudai, Johor, with outstanding results in reducing crimes that often happen in that area. The second suggestion in order to reduce crime rates in urban area is increasing CCTV surveillance. Closed-circuit television (CCTV) had shown us how effective it could be in preventing and reducing crime. CCTV is no longer a strange idea. It has been used in all big cities, including London, New York, Tokyo, and Singapore, with positive results for the outcome. This is a critical issue that government must prioritize and fund adequately.
For the aim of installing the CCTV, a strategic location in the city and housing area must be selected. The government efforts to organize and streamline CCTV owned by the police and others, such as local governments, highways, banks, and so on, are much welcome, but the implementations remain a challenge. Another initiative would include, among other things, the construction of a police beat at a strategic area in urban regions, complete with necessary tools and operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This has definitely been implemented, however, it should be expanded and include all other cities. The nearby neighborhood should be separated into sectors, with police stations operating 24 hours a day. This system, known as the neighborhood post, has been applied in Japan and Singapore and has given a good impact to the society.
Every community is different, but in general, community members can help reduce crime by developing communication without resorting to their own violence, supporting local community centers, and helping to prevent illicit substance abuse. With chasing crime rates, it's important to take action with community to keep home and neighborhood safe. The Malaysian Crime Prevention Foundation calls on more Malaysians to play an active role in crime prevention activities in communities. Communities with strong social cohesion will jointly intervene if there is an element of crime in public areas. The Royal Malaysian Police has taken various initiatives to work with the local community organization, business and NGO. The Royal Malaysian Police also established the Department of Crime Prevention and Community Safety to work more closely and effectively with the community. The aim is to attract the community to work together to prevent crime. The role of community policing is played by villagers living near the coast in the Eastern Sabah Safe Zone to help security force tackle the issue of cross-border crime. Sabah East Coast Special Security Area Commander Dato' Ahmad Fuad Osman said, for example, in Tawau, 14 of the 34 villages near the coast were detected as active areas for infiltration of illegal immigrant smuggling of controlled goods and drugs. He said 3 of the 14 villages involved, but the active involvement of the residents with the community policing could reduce the crime rate in the area. Drugs are chemical compounds that can affect the human mind and body. Drug abuse is a global problem that can affect public health and seriously affect the socio-economic development of a country. Each country had its own way of tackling the drug problem. However, Australia and the United States offer a model that can be emulated by other countries, namely drug codes. Drug codes that combine treatment with incentive and restriction, mandatory and randomized drug testing as well as post-care are proven tools for improving public health and public safety. This special code has been operating for over 20 years in the United States, and its effectiveness in dealing with drug problem has also been well documented. According to Nusaleh and Elisha, drug codes are seen to be effective in trying to touch on the core of the problem of drug abuse. Moreover, treatment as opposed to imprisonment, especially when involving young people, is a more welcome alternative. Prison may provide a good response to those who commit heinous crime, but not so to young adults who turn to drugs because of peer pressure or a sense of belonging. There are several different drug court models with varying levels of success that occur, a variety of treatment plans that best suit the environment and community themselves. In addition, the court-approved program aims to give drug users a second chance of offer them not only a path back to rehabilitation but also to become productive member of society. Some criminal record of drug user will also be erased and will help to remove the stigma that would otherwise accompany imprisonment.
A conclusion, many parties should be involved to reduce the rate of crime in urban areas. As an example is NGO, which is a non-government organization, should extend assistance to reduce the burden of the unemployed to combat the risk for those thinking of earning money with the easiest way. Authority must also concentrate on location where violence can be prevented or reduced. However, other interventions such as urban upgrading, better urban planning, and situational prevention, particularly early childhood intervention, must be implemented. The program should also be created and situated in hotspot location with a focus on the population group most likely to perpetrate and violence offences, which is typically young males aged 10 to 29 years old. The risk factor that lead to these young men becoming involved in criminal activity must also be identified and accompanied with a treatment strategy that includes the family and community. To get out of poverty, the poor need to work in productive jobs that pay well. Maintaining a full employment economy is one of the most effective approaches to alleviate poverty among present and future generations. When the labor market is strong, those at the bottom have more opportunity to find work. Millions of employees may be able to lift themselves and their families out of poverty as a result of this. This will lower crime rates in urban areas where many individuals are unemployed due to the high cost of living. Last but not least, it is an important role for policymakers to enforce law punishment to people who commit crime. If there is already punishment, an increase in punishment should also be made to create awareness on the bad of crime against the surrounding community. This is important to maintain public safety from all types of crimes. High fines should also be imposed on those who commit serious crimes, such as punishment should be implemented as soon as possible as crime in urban areas is very high. That's all. Thank you.